How's it going, guys? This is John Armour reporting for She Got Game. I'm here with a lovely guest and just a really special guest, a part of the She Got Game family. We're excited to have her on. Today we have the pleasure of introducing an exceptional athlete and scholar in the realm of collegiate sports. Hailing all the way from Turkey, she's made a significant impact on the Dartmouth women's basketball team and with her remarkable skills on and off the court. Her unwavering commitment to academic excellence as a freshman major in economics, and I believe she exemplifies the balance between rigorous academics and high-level athletics as well. Her journey is not just about the game she plays; it's been about determination, resilience, and the passion she brings to both her studies and the sport she loves. Joining us today, I hope you guys love what we do. We're going to dive into her experiences, her challenges, and triumphs, both and off the court. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to introduce Zeynep Ozel. How are you doing today? And it's a pleasure for you to join the She Got Game family. We're excited to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. And like I said, I mean, we understand, especially D1 ball, and just you guys' schedule all over the place. We really appreciate you taking us. It is a Friday night. Let's be clear, you're a college kid. Friday night, you're here sitting with me. I'm extremely honored, and I'm pretty sure the audience will be really happy to have you on as well. So.
Thank you.
To get right into it, here at She Got Game, we always have a segment called the She Got Game moment or my She Got Game moment. This is a moment in your journey where you're very. It's pretty much you're a talented player. You understand you're a talented player. You're playing at one of the highest levels, but it's kind of that point in your journey where you knew your talent was exceeding everyone else's, and you knew you could take this to the next level. What part of that in your journey do you recall as your She Got Game moment?
Hmm. Um, I think my She Got Game moment, also speaking of She Got Game, I'm actually rocking my She Got Game t-shirt right now.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
but I'll say my She Got Game moment was when I started to play Nike EYBL. For AAU, because I was playing against such elite players and I was performing well. So then I actually also got five of my six offers during that time. So being able to perform well against top players who were like already committed to Power Five schools, I think was what made me realize that I could play at the next level.
Yeah, absolutely. So, pretty much playing against the better talent or, um, I guess, elite players kind of help build your confidence to jump to that next level.
Definitely, I'm performing well against them. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, my first question for you is, can you tell us a bit about your hometown and what inspired you to personally pursue basketball?
Yeah, so I'm from Istanbul, Turkey. And I have an older brother, and of course, my dad and my mom. And as a family, we've kind of always been passionate about basketball. My dad and my brother both played basketball until college. And I basically grew up watching my brother play back home in Turkey. And then I started to play basketball first with the boys. And then I switched to this club team back home. It was actually one of like the top clubs in the country. And I played with them for 6 years until I came to the US for high school. So I would say my brother, as well as kind of our passion as a family, was kind of what made me pick up a basketball, if that makes sense. Mm.
But that makes sense. Okay, so your older brother kind of got you into it and he kind of inspired you to pursue it. Would you say, or who would you say were your biggest influence or role models growing up, both in sports and kind of to guide you as well as academically?
Well, I guess basketball wise, my brother, as I kind of tying back to the last question, my brother was definitely a huge influence
Gotcha.
as I grew up watching him play. But alongside him, I have a personal trainer back home, and he was a former pro player. He's still my trainer whenever I go back home, and he definitely has helped me shape my game. He was a great player back then, really well known, and so. He's been definitely a huge role model for me as well. His name is Orhan Gider. And then I guess academically, um, I guess I would say my parents instilled in me the importance of education.
Hmm.
all the time, like always. So they were my biggest influence in making sure that I took school seriously, which also allowed me to attend such a prestigious school like Dartmouth. So
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. I mean, Ivy, anything tied to Ivy, you could be good at school, but you got to be really good at school. So congratulations to that. And just kind of to walk me through slightly, because off air you're kind of discussing you've been in America for 5 years now. However, so majority of your life you've been out the country, you've been traveling a lot. Can you talk about a little bit um of the biggest adjustments or the differences just between the cultures slightly?
well, I guess this first thing I'm gonna say is not really tied to culture, but first of all, like when I first came here, I was away from my parents, thousands of miles away from my family. And so that was definitely a hard thing for me. It took me a while to adjust to that when I first came here as a freshman in high school. Um, but culture-wise, I guess I can't really like speak to a specific thing, but there are just so many differences, whether it's like in the school system or it's, even down to the food that you eat. There's like some cultural things that I had to adjust throughout my time here. But it was just a time thing, so now I think I adjusted pretty well. But there were a few things that I had to adjust when I first came here. So.
I'm assuming time zones and stuff like that, your body had to.
Yeah, I guess, well, the jet lag happens like all the time. Like whenever I travel, each time it never goes away. But yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Um, would you say outside of just culture socially, would you say there's a difference in the basketball culture as well as over, in the Middle East or honestly just playing overseas in general versus culture here in America?
So I guess the way I'll answer this question is gonna be a little different. From how I've experienced the US has been through boarding school. So
Oh,
basically, like back home, I was living with my parents, but I spent the majority of my day. My teammates on my club team were also my classmates. We kind of the system is different, of course. So like I played with my teammates on my school team as well as my club team. And I guess socially, that's definitely really different from going to a boarding school in the US. Um, I would say socially, I guess for me personally, I think I used to spend more time with my teammates when I was back home
gotcha.
versus when I came here as a boarding student because I'm living with so many other students that are not only my teammates, and I'm spending time with others around me that are not athletes or like not on my team. I think I got to make more friends outside the team and spend more time with other people outside my teammates. So I think socially I kind of had that difference,
Okay.
but I don't know if that answered the question.
No, it's perfectly fine. I was that explains a lot, to be honest. It diversifies your friends and kind of gives you new experience, which is really cool, because all those experiences help eventually shape you as a human. But in general, I was saying just more so in America, just alone, like if you play in California, right? It's a lot different energy and it's a lot different style of play versus playing in like New York. In New
Mm-hmm.
York, the game's a little more grittier. People are a little more up in your face, tight defense. You go to Cali, people are shooting more threes, a little more flashier.
Hmm.
So depending on the demographic and depending on where you are geographically, at least in the States, there's a culture within the States alone. So what I was simply just asking in the Middle East, because I've heard before in Europe, it's a lot tougher than a lot of people in America think, and different cultures and different styles of play. So that's what I was referring to and asking.
Oh, gotcha. Well, I guess tying to like the differences, I personally would say, well, I think the basketball back in Europe is more like structured and it's more um like a team base versus when I came here to the
Mhm.
US, I realized it was more like a one-on-one, like selfish-ish play.
Got it.
So I would say that was for me the biggest like difference. Um And I
So,
guess like
just
other
take-
styles of play, I honestly think, hmm, I personally think the players in the US are tougher and show more like energy and more like passion personally. But yeah.
Gotcha. No, I get it. I get it. You're not the first. You're not the first person to say that. It's more. It definitely is a lot more dog eat dog world out here. You know, it's a bit more iso ball, and you got to be able to survive out here.
Hmm.
So that it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. I do want to transition slightly, because when you did come to America, you had the opportunity to connect with Coach Mud, who's also the founder of She Got Game. Um, how has your relationship with Coach Mud kind of helped elevate your game while you were in the States?
Yeah, so Coach Mod has a special place in my heart. He's a great coach, he's a great mentor. He has done so much for me even before I arrived here. He was the one who actually encouraged me to come to the US for high school. And then when I came here, he was the one who introduced me to the AAU system. And then he was the one when my parents were not here, because obviously like they couldn't be here the most of the time as an international student. So when they weren't here, he drove me to my AAU practices and my tournaments. Early in the morning, late at night. It was a wild journey. And he always also believed in me that I was a prospective D1 player, which I really appreciated, because it definitely built my confidence. But he also has great workouts. I worked out with him as much as I could, and I definitely wish I had more opportunities to work out with him, because I just added so many new things to my bag, even with the little amount of practice I had with him. So overall, like he's a great coach. He um, yeah, he's a great mentor, he's a great coach. He did a lot for me, so I appreciate him a lot.
Absolutely, absolutely. He's definitely respected out here. You know, he has a lot of great. His resume is pretty good. He's got a lot of good athletes, and a lot of athletes really respect his work out here. So, I think he'll love to hear that. He'll love to see that. He speaks very highly of you as well. So, let's get kind of into just your experience overall. Just kind of transition from the high school ball to kind of college. To start off, why did you end up choosing Dartmouth, and how's that experience been like so far?
Yeah, so I was looking for the balance between high level ba of basketball as well as good education. That has always been my goal because I didn't want to sacrifice one for the other. And I had six different offers from five different conferences. And from all of those opportunities, Dartmouth was the one that really met all those criterias for me. Um, and I also, so as well as meeting those goals, I also felt the trust of my coaching staff in me. That when I came to Dartmouth, that I would have a direct impact on the team as a point guard, and I already realized like how lucky I am to be on the court and get so many minutes as a freshman.
Absolutely.
That's all through my coaches and their trust in me. And so I got that from them early on before I committed. And so that's why I chose Dartmouth.
Absolutely. Not to make a big joke about it, but I think you found slightly more than a balance of just great education and great guard, man, great play. It's elite education. It's the best in the country in the Ivy League. So that's really cool though. So that kind of the trust and just the communication between the university and yourself and your team was able to kind of get you to comfort. Did you kind of confide in more people, or kind of before making the decision, did you talk to your parents, or did you talk to people you trust, and to kind of help you guide you through that as well?
Yeah, of course. I mean, my parents are my mentors, and so I always try to get their opinions on like, throughout my recurring process. But at the end, they always, told me that it was my decision to make, and so at the end of the day, it was my decision, and I'm glad that I made the right decision.
So far, it wasn't the greatest of seasons. You guys are rebuilding, unfortunately. However, with that being said, it gives you a lot of exposure to experience and just, high level play, against other elite athletes as well, right? with that being said, I want to ask, how do you think the Ivy League environment, because coming from where you played in high school in Jersey, and and just even the AAU scene is very different than I would say college. I've been around them all. In college, it's just a different beast within itself. However, when you take the college out of it, there's an Ivy League aspect, and that's an intense environment as well. So how do you feel the Ivy League environment has kind of shaped you as a player, and also just kind of as a student?
Definitely. So I think playing for the Ivy League, I had a lot of responsibilities. I would say, I had to manage all the hard schoolwork. Dartmouth is a hard school. I would say it was pretty challenging, but it's definitely rewarding. So it's worth the challenge. But it was definitely challenging in terms of studies and all my work. Of course, being an athlete, a student athlete, is a pretty hard thing to do in general. It takes a lot of time, as well as I had such a big responsibility on the team as the starting point guard. And so I think for me, definitely the environment was pretty challenging. It was a lot of time. It took a lot of time, but I would say that the way Ivy League is structured, and it definitely all of this experiences I'm having in the Ivy League is definitely I'm for sure that's gonna help me in the future, like not only currently in the future in my, future jobs and future career, whatever I do, all the lessons that I'm learning right now, all the things I'm taking in with my experiences on the team, on and off the court. I'm I'm for sure that it's going to translate into my career later on. And so it's been challenging, especially in the Ivy League, but it's rewarding for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, high risk, high reward, right? And the Ivy League is if it's anything that sets you up for the future, it's definitely being in that environment for sure. Um, you kind of slightly just mentioned it. You said it was hard, as a freshman, because obviously you'll get better at this like anything, just being consistent and over time. But you kind of mentioned, managing, your academics and basketball commitments as well. I kind of want you to go into slightly more of that just for the audience at home, because like if you're not a student athlete, you may not necessarily know what you mean. But
Mhm.
kind of just a small day in the life. Most people may not know you may have to go to three meetings before 6 o'clock. People may not know you practice twice before 8 in the morning. Whatever that case is, just kind of what a day in the life, middle of the season looks like for you, as well as balancing your class schedule.
Yeah, so I'll say for in season, as I said, every day is pretty different and every season is also different. But um, we practice at 7 a.m. every day. And our practices are about like 2 hours long. I was even 2.5 hours long. And so we have to wake up really early in the morning to get to practice.
Yep.
But I actually prefer that because I'd rather have a practice in the morning and kind of get done with it than have to do it later in the afternoon. And so we practice in the morning, and I usually, most of us have class right after practice. And then I would say like the whole afternoon, I'm either in class, having lunch, or I'm practicing by myself because, of course, to be able to be good, you have to practice extra by yourself. So that's what I do during the afternoon, and then depending on which day it is, we have lifts at like 4:30. And then I get dinner and usually I try to make sure I schedule my classes during the afternoon so I don't have to take classes in the evenings. But after lift, it's just get dinner and then of course because we spend so much time during the day for basketball and classes that in the evening I have to get work done. So that's how I kind of spend my days during in season. Off season, I would say is pretty similar as well. Not really much of a difference. It's just lift days are less during in season than off season. So I guess we get more free time during the winter season. But I would say in season and off season is actually pretty similar. So
Okay. Um, you did mention something key, simple as that, as because time management, people may not understand how difficult that is. So you just said you have practice at 7 o'clock, right? And then you mentioned you have to wake up early. What people may not understand is that means Miss Zeynep has to go to sleep probably like 8, 9 o'clock. Can't really be up, whether it's Friday night, Saturday night, you can't really be up till 12 or 1 because obviously you wake up, 4 hours of sleep. That's going to affect you on the court. and then you got to deal with the repercussions of that, right? You may oversleep, whatever the case is, right?
Exactly.
Um, so things like that for younger people that are trying to prepare and get ready, that is a reality for you guys. And like she said, it is it's tough. It's tough, and it's not an easy fight. But just over time and just your true commitment and determination, may help you kind of stay more organized. Which leads me to my next question for you. Can you share any strategies or tips that help you personally stay organized and focused?
Yeah, well, first off, I'm a really forgetful person, so I make sure I use like a to-do list, some kind of list, so I kind of stay on top of everything. That's one thing that has helped me a lot. And for me, kind of because we have so many things to do during the day, I make sure to learn class in class. So if that makes sense. So like I make sure to listen to my classes so
Gotcha.
then I don't have to study extra to re-understand what
Mm,
was taught in class. Um,
gotcha.
I think that's been really crucial for me to like kind of spend less time with classes because like off outside of basketball in
Yeah.
classes because
Yeah.
it just takes so much of your time and it used to be really hard. But I think kind of making that change and making sure I listen to class in class has really helped me stay on top of everything as well, which has also allowed me to manage my time better and be more organized. So.
I was gonna say, in so many words, you're just making your minutes count. As I do know, a lot of people who are like, unfortunately, because of their time management, they're actually playing catch up all through class. Like they use their class to either sleep or, catch up either on film or something like that. Next thing you know, you're behind a class. And like you said, it takes away from your time focusing everywhere else. So that is a pretty sharp technique. And I'm assuming you have a lot more freedom and a lot more time on your hands. I'm assuming when you go home, you do have to run through it again and, you may read and take your notes or whatever the case is, but that is a unique aspect. Would you say it's a lot easier said than done? Because I'm assuming some techniques you gotta email your teacher for or something like that to kind of go back over. But you know, would you say it's kind of easier said than done, or do you believe it's more of a focus thing?
I definitely think it's easier said than done. I think the whole aspect of being a student athlete is easier said than done.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, I do. You kind of just mentioned it. I mean, like you said, being a student athlete is a lot easier said than done in general. People just see the glamour and they see the lights and the popularity and they believe that's what it is. So for you personally, just in your freshman year, or just honestly through your high school career, just through your career in general, what has been some of your biggest challenges you faced as a student athlete and how did you personally overcome it?
Yeah, I think I always like kind of mention like, you gotta manage your time well. Even though I make these strategies, it doesn't always work, I guess. Like you still struggle. Um, I would especially say during the season, it's even harder to be able to study for your classes and do your homework, especially because we're traveling a lot.
Yeah.
So I would say honestly, one of the biggest challenges for me, I would say, has been like traveling to away games because then I feel like I've realized I slack more on my homework and my studies. So I would say the traveling aspect has been pretty hard. Even we travel far, like Penn is 7 hours away from my campus. So that's like a 14-hour round trip, which like if you don't do any work on the bus, then you're kind of screwed. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So for people at home, in instances like that, how important is communication with your teachers and how important is communication, whether it be, friends in class or whatever, or even making friends in class to kind of help you go over the notes? Like, how important are those small details so you can focus 100% still on basketball and being great while also not being distracted by those other aspects?
Yeah, so for Dartmouth specifically, we're a small school,
Mhm.
and so most of our class sizes are actually typically like really small. I haven't had a class more than 25 people.
Oh, nice.
Um, yeah, which is, I think it's crazy, but I actually really like that structure because it helps me be more close with my classmates and my teacher. So then for me, I've been able to communicate with my teachers pretty well because whenever I had to be away for a game, I would it wasn't really a struggle for me. Like I just emailed my professors really easily because I had a good relationship with my professors. And of course, having classmates, good relationships with your classmates are important to, kind of get notes from them. And I think having small class sizes has been really helpful with that.
Of course, of course. I want to ask you, so because we're talking about school, and I think this is important for people because it's probably the most relatable aspect. But I want to take a step back out of college, right? Um, because it all leads back into college eventually. One of the biggest transitions I personally believe you had to do was coming from your former AAU when you first got here, joining the Nike EYBL. And like you kind of mentioned, it was part of your She Got Game moment where you kind of came into yourself and you found that confidence playing against elite athletes. You personally, um, what was that transition necessarily like from your senior year playing with the Nike EYBL and coming from, your former AAU? What was the differences in talent levels and what did you have to do mentally to kind of gear yourself up? Because like you said, that taking that step up, that confidence is a lot more. Most of that stuff is through here. It's not necessarily what you do on the court. It's not like you just lost your ability to shoot or whatever the case is. A lot of that times is up here. So what did you have to personally do, or what was that transition like from you mentally coming from your former AAU to Nike EYBL and then eventually Dartmouth?
Yeah. I would say definitely making that shift. I would say a lot of, as you said, it's all mental. So I feel like a lot of players could have said, that they're not good enough or that like they might not be able to make it in this league. I think I kind of did the opposite. I kind of took advantage of this opportunity to be able to play for an EYBL team and mentally shift my focus on just doing my best on the court. And I was given the point guard role, and I think kind of making that shift mentally definitely helped me as I because I was trying to take advantage of the opportunity that
Yeah,
not a lot of players can have. It really helped me perform well, perform my point guard duties well. And then ultimately, I played well, I performed well, and that kind of also, that performance I had during the summer was really what led me to get such offers from those schools. So yeah, I think it was definitely, it was a big shift. And I think while a lot of people might mentally think it's hard to do or like they can't do it, I think I just took advantage of it by thinking that I have such a great opportunity to perform well. And I was given the minutes to, showcase and display my skills. So I just took advantage mentally um, to perform well. And I did well. So yeah, it was great. It was a great experience playing for the UIBL because it opened up a lot of opportunities for me. And I'm glad that I was able to make that mental shift. Even though there were more elite players, I was playing against elite players. Yeah.
yeah. So we have a thing out here, and you probably heard it, especially while playing. Sometimes you got to channel that inner dog in you, right? Sometimes, Zeynep you may be Zeynep off the court, you may be the sweetest, you may be the nicest human in the world, but sometimes there's a second gear, when you hop in these competitive arenas that sometimes you have to tap into. I'm pretty sure you know exactly what I'm talking about. What does that look like for you, and what necessarily do you have to do to kind of trigger that? Because some people are locked in, and it's hard for them to turn it on and off, and then some people find the skill to be able to turn it on and off. Um, what does that look like for you? And when you are on the court with elite athletes, excuse me, with elite athletes, what does that dog look like for you, and how do you really get in that mode and lock in?
Yeah, so I would definitely say once I think there's like a few aspects. One of the aspects I would say is when I play against elite players, I want to, because basically because I'm an underdog, I want to make sure I don't want the I don't want to lose as the underdog, and so whenever I get that opportunity to play against elite players, whether that was in the EYBL circuit or it was at Dartmouth, that kind of motivated me to just give it all on the court. But sometimes I would say I feel like this one that I'm going to say is going to be more accurate. But I personally think whenever I have a reason against the team that I'm playing against, I actually bring that inner dog in me. Like if there's just I'm gonna make this up. For example, like if I don't like a person on the other team, or if they've done something disrespectful against us, or something like that, then I kind of bring that inner dog, I would say. Which I've had that happen a lot this year and during new IBL, but I'll say both of those things have really helped me bring the inner dog.
Absolutely. Do you embrace, would you say you embrace, or do you kind of like being underdog? It kind of helps, it kind of helps you play with that chip on your shoulder, that swagger a little bit.
Definitely. I think because when you're an underdog, I feel like you have more motivation to like prove people wrong. And so I think obviously being an underdog means there are others better than you, but then I think being an underdog also means you can kind of prove people wrong and, show them that that's not the case. So, yeah.
So sometimes you like shut people up a little bit. You like proving them wrong.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I love that. And speaking of that, man, it's just that I love that. This is why I love sports. I mean, because there's only a few at the top, right? There's a few people they select, and they're saying they're the best, and blah blah blah. But then there are athletes like yourself, and just there's so many athletes that people get overlooked, and it helps bring that extra juice out of them. And I love that part about it. But specifically, your confidence up here to grow drastically since your senior year, right? From your senior year to senior year, freshman year at Dartmouth, your confidence is just going through the roof. What did your all-season regiment look like once you returned back to your home, your homeland in Turkey before your freshman season? Because I mean, between me and you, there's a huge. At high school, you were doing your thing. EYBL. You also took that step, but you came home and you came back a different point guard, and it's been really exciting to watch you do your thing. So, what did that offseason regimen look like, and what kind of helped you come back with that extra fire?
Yeah. So in my opinion, of course, AAU is really crucial for recruitment, and that's where almost everyone gets recruited because during this season, during the high school season, all the college coaches are in season as well, and
Mm.
so it's hard to get recruited then. And so players take advantage of AAU, which is also where I got recruited basically, and it was a great experience to play AAU for sure. But I personally think through experience, whenever I went back home and worked on my weaknesses and improved my strengths was when I really elevated my game instead of playing AAU. So like the first 3 years I played AAU, and then last summer I went back home and I just trained every weekday for 3 months. I went, weightlifting in the mornings, and I went playing basketball in the afternoon for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I did this every day.
Mm.
And I think that's one thing that I don't want to say dislike about AAU. It's just like you play AAU, you're playing a game, but then when I had the opportunity to go back home and actually work on my weaknesses and then improve on my strengths was when I actually realized, like when I is how do I say this? Was when I actually improved myself,
Gotcha.
I would say. So I think there's kind of like a distinction between the two, but AAU was great. But I think what improved me was kind of going back home and I had a great personal trainer and I kind of working on those things really helped me prepare for Division 1 basketball
Of course.
and kind of build my confidence. And then of course I'm really grateful for my coaches at Dartmouth, Coach Sim and Coach Rob, and because they gave me the minutes to display those skills I was working during the summer, I was working on during the summer. And so I'm really appreciative of them too, just because I was able to display my skills. So
Absolutely. So it sounds like from what I'm hearing, EYBL was able, it gave you the platform to kind of display it. But when you got home, you got to sharpen your sword a little bit. You got to really, during EYBL, you probably maybe not have had the opportunity to really sharpen your skills in season. But when you got home, you knew it was game time and you got to lock in and came back a whole different, a whole different point guard. So that makes a lot of sense. I mean, look, like anything else, sometimes you got to reset, right? Sometimes you got to go back, reset the batteries, start from zero, crush yourself, and then build yourself back up, right? So, I think that's really cool. Um, can you tell us particularly a memorable moment in your basketball career at Dartmouth thus far? Now, granted, I know you just finished your freshman season, but did you have a favorable moment or a memorable moment just this season that stood out? And also, there's a twofer. I kind of, when you're at point guard, obviously you're relying on your vets and stuff. I'm assuming you have seniors and stuff on your team. But a lot of the times when you're the point guard, it's your show. It's your show, period. You're running a show. People are relying on you to kind of help run the offense, get them points. There's a lot of responsibility running that point guard. Um, so do you have any favorable moments from this past season? And also, what has this season taught you so far about leadership?
Yeah, so I guess to answer your first question, a memorable moment. I would say definitely. So when I was in high school, my parents always came for my basketball seasons. They always were here to watch all 3 months of my season. And so, um, I think for me, they came for my first 5 games at Dartmouth. They came to watch my home games. We had like 5 consecutive home games. And they came to watch me play. And I think as a starting point guard, they announced my name and, I had my photo on the board. And I think kind of having that memory, being able to make them experience, their daughter playing Division 1 basketball, kind of being able to, start and have my name announced. I think that was definitely really memorable. That was definitely the most memorable thing. But alongside that, I think with my teammates, what was the most memorable was we played against Navy and we won in overtime. And that was just like a really fun game. And so I think that was the most memorable moment for me for my team. Because overtime wins, it was a great win. So
Of course, of course.
yeah, so about leadership, of course. Um, the position I play requires to be a team player. And so um, I kind of take that on me and I always prioritize creating positions for my teammates and, make the team win before anything else, because this is what my coaches want me to do. And so, of course, I had our senior guard was Victoria Page. She was like the leading scorer on the team, and she was a great leader as well. I played alongside her, and I definitely learned a lot from her about leadership, but of course, my position, um, I would say, of course, being a point guard means a leader because the ball is in your hands, as you said. So I can't basically help but be a leader. Um, but for me, I would say my main leader, alongside Victoria Page, who was a senior guard, was my coach, Coach Sim. She was always the main leader. So because my priority was to do during the games is to do what my coach wants us to do as a team, that's what I try to do, which makes me a leader because I start the offense. So I would say I take my leadership from my coach and from what I see from her and what she wants us to do, and then I kind of take on that on the court. And I think that's what I've learned throughout my freshman year. Um, yeah.
Kind of just being a team player. How has that shaped your game mentally, understanding and knowing like, yes, I can create for myself, because obviously you have to have the ability to do that, but also creating for others and understanding, okay, they average this many shots a game, or or this plays directly, this pin down is specifically for this person. Um, how does that shape your game mentally? Because do you have to physically know your spots, or do you have to know, okay, it's my time to shine, or I can excel in these specific moments? How has that shaped your game in general, being able to lead and allow other people to still find their games within your game?
I honestly think it kind of comes in the moment. like it's not really something that you plan in the game, but it kind of is like it comes in the moment from all my experience throughout the year.
Gotcha.
And it's like from what I've learned from my coach, from, my teammates. But at the end of the day, I just try to do what's the best for the team, which I also learned from my coach, what to do. And so, yeah, I would definitely say that it just happens to be in the moment. And then I just try to do what's the best for the team. Whether that's, understanding who's a hot hand or understanding who we should be giving the ball to, like where we have an advantage and everything, or which, plays we should be playing. Um, it kind of, I guess, comes down to the decision making. And I sometimes actually have to live with the consequences of my decisions as well as a point guard, which has happened a lot actually during the season. But yeah, I guess that's it.
100%. 100%. Personally, while at Dartmouth and just your minuscule time, your few months or whatever the case is at Dartmouth, what personal academic and athletic goals have you come together for yourself to kind of accomplish for the remainder of your time at Dartmouth? Throughout your time, was there anything specific that jumped out your window?
Yeah, just academically, just do my best in class, attend every class and do my work as best as I can. And I would say for basketball, we're rebuilding the program, but all the girls, like, it's a dream to win the Ivy League championship. It's a dream to make it to the March Madness. And we've seen it from three of the teams in the Ivy League make it this year to the March Madness. And so our our dream as a team is to, especially with like my recruiting class, I would say I was me and four other or five other girls. We were the first recruiting class of Coach Sim, our
Yeah,
head coach.
yeah,
And so I think with the rebuilding, what we want to do is like take one step at a time, but we want to, win a Ivy League championship. That's the main goal. And then we want to make it to March Madness and do as well as we can. Those are, I would say, our goals as a team and personally. And then I just want to do the best I can on the court just to make the team win. Just whatever works. I just want to make the team do that and I just want to win. So,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely. Winning's always a priority, and it's not gonna hurt, to win a few championships while your time at Dartmouth, So I completely understand, and we're 100% rooting for you. I
Thank
want you to take just a quick step looking ahead. I mean, again, I know obviously it's your freshman year. I don't know if even some of these thoughts have jumped in your mind, but I do want to have this on your mind or something just to think about if you don't have the answer for me currently. But just looking ahead, how because it doesn't just happen overnight, right? Like looking ahead, how did you envision your career path, as a basketball player, and just an idea of what does your career path may look like after graduation, and how does basketball fit into your vision?
Yeah, I would say I'm keeping my options like open. If I can pursue that high level of basketball in the future, I would definitely take it. But I'm also planning on majoring in economics and government, and so even if that doesn't work, I will have a lot of options, on the other side. And so I would say I'm just generally keeping my options open. So.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, as you should, as you should. You know, sometimes having all your eggs in one basket could be detrimental as well, right? So that's really smart. And like you said, you got a lot of, like I said, you got a lot of time to network and kind of get your experiences out there. So maybe in a few years, I'll come back to you with it. All right. Um, you know, and just kind of, I mean, we kind of ran through a lot of your story and a lot of just your career, essentially. So my question to you is, what advice, honestly, would you have to offer to any high school athlete to aspire to play at the collegiate level while maintaining, their studies at a financial level as well? Um, And just kind of any European, Middle Eastern, or any overseas players that may want to come to America and kind of accomplish what you've accomplished, even in this short time. Um, what advice do you necessarily have for them, or just anyone who's ever followed your journey?
Yeah, I would say kind of starting the habits early is really crucial. Like I would say, I kind of always had in mind that I wanted to go to a really good I wanted to get a really good education at like a top level college, and I would say kind of started the habits of like studying and doing all those coursework early on in high school. I went to a really good high school in the U.S. as well. It was a top academic school in the U.S., but I kind of just started on really early in my life, and so I think kind of starting those habits early on is really important to be able to, if you have the same goals as I have, which is like maintaining that balance between basketball and academics, I think starting early on is really important. Um, and then, hmm, I would say for me, one crucial thing has been um, which it was definitely my turning point in my life as well, which was coming to the US in high school. I think when you look at a lot of international players, they come to the US in college, which totally makes sense because, if you go to D1, normally except Ivy League, you get a scholarship. And not a lot of people have the resources to come to the US in high school. I was really thankful to have the resources from my high school in the US because I got financial aid, I had donors, and so I was really grateful for that because I had the resources. Not a lot of people have those resources, but for me, coming to the US in high school helped me adjust to the system, whether that was the basketball system or that was, the school system, the culture. I went through the adjustment system in high school, which then led me to prepare way better for college. So for me, I guess this is more for like the international players. If you have the resources, I would say definitely coming to the US early on is important, and I think it's really beneficial. For me, it definitely was. It definitely prepared me well for college. Um, and hmm, let me think. Yeah, I guess just kind of on the habits, except studying like time management, the organization, everything, those habits, I think just starting those early on in your life is really crucial to, continue doing so.
Absolutely. And in your opinion, what qualities are essential for success as a student athlete, not just as an athlete, just what qualities do you personally believe are essential to be successful at doing, what you do?
Yeah, I think it's being disciplined, being a hard worker, and I think being a team player generally, because whatever you do in life, it usually consists of being in a team, whether that's in your workforce, whether that's, playing on a team, whatever. It consists of being a team player. And so I think having this teamwork skills and, being disciplined to do your work and being a hard worker to always be better, I think those are really crucial skills to be able to get better and, be successful at these levels.
Although you're a freshman, that's really, you're still obviously still young, you're still growing and learning, but that's a hell of advice. It's a great advice for anyone that's following her journey, and she's not wrong. There's no one on the planet that does. I mean, other people love to feel independent, feel like they've done it all their own. It's just never the case. Everyone needs a team, and eventually you'll burn yourself out if you're trying to do everything yourself. So you gave wonderful advice, and this was a wonderful conversation. I really believe a lot of information was stacked in here, and hopefully the audience loves us just as much as I did. I just want to let you know again, we are beyond grateful for you to have, for you to come on, take the time to chat with us. You're, welcome to the She Got Game family. It's a pretty big, extensive family, and just know this won't be the last time we chat with you. And more importantly, we wish you health, and hopefully, a couple months down the line, we'll be able to check back in with you and possibly get out there to Dartmouth, cover a few games. Would be unbelievable. It would be a great time. So. Again, from the bottom of our hearts here, just we really appreciate you for coming on and chatting with us. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.